my name is Lori and I'm a flight attendant for a US airline, and I wanted to share my experience with getting hired, going through training and all that with y'all because I know a lot of people are interested in this career and it's a great job. There are so many perks to it and it's just such a fun time meeting a bunch of new people every single day. So stay tuned if you want to know more. So basically I applied back in April and I didn't hear back until June, and that is across the board for most airlines, is that the process can be kind of tedious sometimes depending on how fast they're trying to hire people. So hearing back about 2 months later isn't too out of the ordinary. And so I applied and I heard back in June, scheduled my interview a week later from the time they emailed me, and basically they asked questions around like that kind of STAR method or whatever, and it's basically stuff like, have you ever had a bad experience with a customer? How did you deal with it? Where is one situation where you had to put safety first and stuff like that. So if you don't have previous aviation experience, which I did not, it is very, very, very important that you have customer service experience somehow, somewhere. So, make the most of it. I was a receptionist, so that's definitely working with customers. I was a retail associate, so again, working with customers. And I was a nanny, and yes, like that's not necessarily working with customers, but some part of that I found in my benefit was that that's kind of focusing on safety first, and that is a huge thing for airlines. And so all these different aspects can definitely help you. Just because you don't have like that traditional customer service like job doesn't mean that you're like kicked out and like you're not going to be able to apply, but it just gives you that kind of benefit over someone who maybe does not have those experiences but also has the same credentials as you everywhere else. So after my virtual interview, I heard back within about an hour, I think. They emailed me and they invited me for a face-to-face interview here in Atlanta. And so I was super stoked. I was like, oh my gosh, like I got so excited. I went and bought my first like business suit because I am fresh out of college. I finished college during training, which was a whole other thing in itself, and it was definitely like a little bit hard, but it was so worth it because I missed graduation for this job. Like I wanted to be a flight attendant so bad, and I am here now and I'm loving it. But basically I went in for that face-to-face interview, and instead of it being more of like that timely schedule as like I scheduled it for 1:30, it was more like first come first serve. We all just sat in a room. I made a couple friends throughout that time. One of them went to training with me, so that kind of worked out good. And I got familiar faces because these people that I was in this interview like room with, I saw later on. And by the way, the face-to-face interview for me was not really an interview. It was more so like, do I fit in the jump seat? Do I have the reach? Can I read off of a script? And the answer was apparently yes, because after that, I heard back about 5 days later inviting me to training for July 19th. And so I headed to training, and it was definitely so nerve-wracking. The first night at training, I was literally petrified because I was like, well, why did I do this? I'm in the city I've never been to my whole life. I am nervous as heck. Like, it was just like, what did I get myself into? Like, I don't know anyone here. Like, my parents are in Florida. I'm in the north right now. Like, this is so far away from home, and I've never been away from my house like this long, because training for me was about a month long. So basically I cried the first night, but then the next day I met a bunch of people, and it really became kind of like a close family. Like everyone in that class like was just so nice, and we all had a good time. But before training, we were actually received an email with a bunch of terms on it discussing like aviation terminology and 24-hour time and all of that, like the clock. And when they send you that for training, definitely study it, because you're going to need to know that. The first week you're going to be tested on that most likely, especially if they tell you that. So for me, I definitely studied, weeks before I went to training, because I wanted to make sure I was completely prepared for this training. I know that training is hard. Like I had heard it before. I was like totally scared. My mom was a gate agent for this airline's like, I guess they're like owner or whatever. So she told me that training was like really hard. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm petrified, but it ended up being fine. Basically, training was very, very, very fast paced. You were sitting in a classroom for pretty much like 8 to 12 hours a day, and I wish I was exaggerating, but that's the truth. And you're just basically nonstop just going through PowerPoint slides, talking about all these different things. Okay, sorry y'all, my storage was full, but before I went to training, I was like, oh, this training is gonna be easy. Like, oh my gosh, you know, before I had heard anything about it, I was like, all I'm gonna learn is how to pour Coke in the air and it's gonna be great. So I was so excited, and it was definitely not that. We only focused on service for like half a day, and I wish I was kidding. The rest of it was all safety information. And we had I'd say about 3 tests a week on average. Some were 4 and some were 2. So about on average was about 3 tests a week plus drills. So with the drills, if you get the videos beforehand, I highly, highly, highly recommend on looking at those and kind of going through them already, because that kind of tripped me up towards the end, because we had like, I think 4 tests that week and drills. So I was like, and they called it Hell Week, so I kind of knew it was coming, but I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry, because it was just a lot of stuff. But I got through it. It's definitely doable. The tests to me were not that bad. I had to study for them. It wasn't like, oh, like common sense. It was more like, if you study it or you've heard it before, you'll remember it. But my lowest grade on the test, I think, was like a 96 or 97. So don't stress. They want you to pass. They're not gonna just throw you into there and be like, oh, have fun. Like, if you fail, like, we're sending you home. Like, the teachers, they want you to pass. They want you to do good, because, you know, they want you to be out on the line with them. Like, it's an exciting experience. And so I definitely, definitely, definitely don't want y'all to be like, oh my gosh, like, I can't do this. Like, you can do it. So after training, you graduate, which is such a fun, exciting time. We all flew home in our uniforms. The flight attendants on the airline that we were all flying in, because a lot of us flew out of Atlanta, they were all like, we want to congratulate the new flight attendants working with us today and all this stuff, and they were just being so nice. But after that, you have your IOE. So technically you're not a flight attendant until you pass your IOE. I had to have 5 hours of IOE experience, and when I tell y'all, my IOE was legitimately right at 5 hours, like in a couple minutes over, like that was it. So basically, you go in with a check flight attendant, which is someone who is really good at their job, and they want you to pass, so don't stress about this as well. But basically, they want to like kind of make sure that you know what you're doing. And for me, I was very nervous for this as well, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm so new to this. I've learned everything safety-wise in a classroom. I can handle an emergency like that. But you throw me into like these everyday like activities and stuff, I was so nervous. But there was no need to be nervous, because they do really want you to pass. It's not like they're like, okay, let's see if this girl knows what she's doing. It's more like, let me guide you to like what you're supposed to do each and every day during this. So fortunately, we were allowed to have cards with our sequence of events on them for our IOE. So it made it a lot better. And I think that helps a lot, because, you know, the small things like where to put your baggage, who are you briefing, like those kinds of like little things are so hard to like retain just in your head when you're like so nervous. So it's really, really great, and they want you to pass, so don't stress about it. Mine went really well, and you know, I passed. It was fine. The worst part for me was the safety briefing, because I was just so nervous for everything else. But you know, I got it down now. Like, it's really easy. Because on ours we don't have TVs on it, so I have to like do it with the automated thing and get the mask and put it over my head and do all of that. So it's definitely a process, but it is so, so, so fun, and you get to meet so many awesome people. So after your IOE, you're officially a flight attendant, and it's a great time. For me, I got to go on my first trip about 4 or 5 days after my IOE, which was really, really fast. And the place I went to Detroit, Montreal, Canada, which was so awesome. Like, seriously, y'all, it was great. I went to a small town in New York, which I cannot remember the name of to save my life, but these like little towns, and I had like a 4-day trip. So I had a blast. I had the best crew ever. The flight attendant that was with me was super nice. The pilots that I was with were so nice. They like paid for our meals. Like it was just such a fun time. And like I had such an amazing trip, and like it really made me excited for this job. And y'all, it is just such a fun experience. And if you're looking into being a flight attendant, I really, really recommend it. You will not regret it. And if you do, like, you know, at least you can say you gave it a shot. Like for me, I was like, I want to do this, and I gave it a shot, and I am so happy. So I wanted to get into the pay. So for me, the pay is definitely adjustment, and I don't mean that to scare anyone or to prevent them from going into this, but for me, you know, it is less than something I would have gotten getting paid for with my degree, like related directly to my degree. So that is something that you have to consider when doing this. Again, like a lot of airlines, you know, they'll give you stipends for training, but some do not. So that's something else to consider. You want to make sure that your bills are paid prior to training, because you don't want to go into training and, you know, be worried about money the entire time. And then also, you know, it's definitely an adjustment. For me, it works because, you know, I'm a student, or I just graduated. I only have myself and my dog to take care of, and I have a roommate. So it just all kind of works out well, because this is like a good, you know, it's doable for someone. But if I had children and I had a dog and a husband and like he didn't work and stuff like that is where it could get kind of tricky, and like the money thing would possibly be an issue. So if you're going to become a flight attendant for the money, then I wouldn't suggest pursuing this career necessarily, just because this isn't like, you know, for the money. It's more for like who you meet, the people you meet, and like the adventure and experiences you gain from it. So for me, like having that pay cut is worth it. I love this job. It is a great, great job. It's so fun. You get to meet amazing people, and it's just so like incredible. I never had been to Canada before, and I got to go on my first trip. So that was like insanely cool to me. But you know, there are benefits to this. It's not all like, oh, your money gets cut, but it's like, yeah, your money, you know, could go down a little bit, but also you get free flights, non-revving, and you get to meet amazing people, and you get to stay in hotels all the time, which I think is fun. I love like reserve as well, because for reserve, like we don't know where we're going, how long we're gonna be gone, when we're going, like any of that. It's all just kind of like throwing us into that, and I feel like it's kind of like a game, like it's kind of fun. So like so far I do like reserve. I've only been on reserve for like a couple weeks, so that could very well change, but I do like it. I think it's a great time, and I do really recommend this job if you're looking for a career change. You don't want that 9 to 5, and you don't care about, you know, getting paid big bucks. And yes, eventually you can get paid big bucks, but when you start off, especially with these smaller airlines, you're not going to be making like 60,000. You're not going to be making 100,000. You're going to be starting lower, and that's okay. Like if you can make it work, go for it, because it's really, really awesome, and I really recommend this job to anyone that's, you know, really wanting to do it for the experiences, the people, and all of that. So I hope this helped y'all. I would love to make more videos. I don't know where to go from here, but you know, if you have any questions or you want me to touch on more topics, I can definitely talk about finishing college through training and all of that. I would absolutely love to help you guys, because I know it's like confusing and scary when you don't know what you're getting into, and a lot of airlines are starting to hire now, especially mainline. So get your name out there. Go and get some customer service experience, or go and put yourself out there and get your name known and get those connections, y'all. So I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful week, and it was great talking to you guys, and I'll see you guys later.